I've been documenting my life on this channel for almost 3 years now. I just checked and looked at some of my older videos and cringed a bunch. During this time, and even before I started posting on YouTube, I've used a bunch of different cameras and gear setups, but recently I put together a new camera setup specifically for making these sort of cinematic lifestyle vlogs that I've been really into lately on this channel, and so I figured I would share that with you guys in this video. I think I'll start by discussing my general thought process around cameras and acquiring new gear, and then I'll get into the specific camera body that I've chosen and why, some of the essential accessories that make this setup so effective, and finally a recent lens pickup that I think pairs perfectly with this entire setup. So definitely stay tuned till the end and hopefully you enjoyed the video. This video is brought to you by K&F Concept. I'll talk more about them later. All right, I'll try to keep this section brief and not yap for too long because I'm sure you're most curious about the specifics of the setup itself. But I do think it's important to start by discussing just the gear thing in general, because I know videos like these where someone's sharing their nice new fancy camera setup or tech products or whatever it is can easily become just fuel for consumerism and draining your bank account, which is not what my goal is with this video. You often hear that gear doesn't matter, and I think that's definitely true for certain things. You know, gear alone obviously isn't going to magically make you better at creating videos or taking photos. Only time and practice and actually putting in the reps will do that. So for me, when it comes to gear, there's sort of two main ways that I think about it. There's the specs and the experience. The specs is like your standard nerdy technical stuff. You know, does it film in 8-bit versus 10-bit color? How many megapixels does it have? What are the base ISOs? What's the low light performance? Is it a full frame camera, APS-C? What's the audio quality, stabilization, battery life, etc.? You know, what are the raw capabilities of this piece of technology? And I know from experience that it's very easy to fall into the trap of optimizing for those latest and greatest technical capabilities, as those are really the easiest things to compare on paper. And then there's the experience side, which is things like, does using this camera over that one make you enjoy creating more? Does it reduce the amount of friction to actually bring your camera with you, or increase the friction? Does your setup help you practice the craft more and continue to improve your skills and enjoy the process of creating? Obviously, both specs and experience do matter, but it's often the experience side of things that gets overlooked because it's hard to know what your experience will be like until you actually spend time using the gear and putting those reps in. And for me, as someone who mainly picks up the camera as a way to document my life, explore the world, practice the craft, and just find fulfillment, as opposed to professionally photograph weddings or sports or make Hollywood movies, I've been trying to optimize more for the experience lately. I also personally only like to acquire new gear when I feel like my knowledge of the craft and skill level has developed enough so that I can actually make the most of the gear and really learn it and push it to its limits, because I don't want my gear quality, I guess, to progress significantly faster than my skill level. All right, so the camera itself is the Sony ZV-E1. This is the top camera in Sony's ZV lineup, which is geared more towards content creators. It's kind of the big brother to the popular ZV-E10, which is actually what I started my sort of content creation YouTube journey with filming on. Now, one of the main advantages with this camera is its size. Sony says it's their smallest full frame camera, which is a very important factor for just reducing overall friction to bring your camera with you. The form factor on this is really nice, but you're honestly not sacrificing too much with the size. It's still got the same sensor as the popular cinema line camera, the Sony FX3, as well as the Sony A7S3. So you get pretty much identical image quality, but just in a much sort of cheaper kind of plasticky body, but it is also a lot smaller. I won't go deep into the technical specs because, again, I'm more concerned about the general experience using the camera, but the biggest ones to highlight would be the low light performance. You've got dual base ISOs at 640 and 12,800. So those are kind of like the cleanest ISO levels that you can use, and 12,800 is insane. Like, you can nearly see in the dark depending what lens you're using. It also has dynamic active stabilization, which is really good for handheld shots. It's almost like you have it on a gimbal or something, and paired with the lens that I'm going to talk about later in the video, it makes it really nice because you can have those wider typical vlog shots but still have them nice and steady. And it's got a built-in directional microphone, which is surprisingly good quality and probably good enough for most just everyday lifestyle vlogs, but I'll talk a little bit more about the audio side of things in the accessories section of this video. Now, how does this compare to something like the Sony a7C II, which is Sony's other popular compact full frame camera that's in a similar price range? Well, I made a full video on my channel about the A7C II where I said that it was really the only camera that I need, and so far I still 100% stand by that. If I had to choose between the ZV-E1 and the A7C II, I would pick the A7C II in a heartbeat, mainly because I personally enjoy taking photos. Since moving to New York City, I've also been getting more into street photography and trying to improve my skills at that, and honestly, I like the aesthetic of the A7C II a bit better. It feels a little more premium with the silver sort of top as opposed to this slightly more compact but mainly plasticky, sort of cheap feeling body on the ZV-E1. But if you want to fully optimize for the video side of things and maybe just don't really care to take photos, or maybe you already have a dedicated photo camera, then Sony ZV-E1 is probably the better option because the video quality on this is pretty objectively better than the A7C II. The main difference is that it shoots native 4K video with that 12 megapixel sensor, the same as the FX3 and the A7S III, which essentially allows it to perform a lot better in low light. You can go up to that 12,800 base ISO and not get much noise, whereas the A7C II uses oversampled 4K. So this is all kind of nerdy stuff, but essentially the picture on the A7C II can look a lot sharper and crispier sometimes, whereas the ZV-E1 does a lot better in low light and has more of this organic look to the footage. Now I'm lucky enough to be able to afford and justify keeping both the A7C II and the ZV-E1. I also got a pretty good deal on the ZV-E1 thanks to my friend Justin. Shout out to you, Justin, who was selling his used ZV-E1. So I decided to add it to my kit as kind of a dedicated video and vlogging camera. Now the main issue that some people have with this camera is the overheating. I have yet to have it fully overheat on me, although I did get the warning sign a couple times when filming a longer video segment. My old ZV-E10, which has kind of a similar plasticky build, did often overheat on me after recording for longer periods of time. So if you do need to film for extended periods like 45 minutes or an hour plus, then you might run into some issues and you might want to look at either getting a sort of fan accessory or looking into other cameras. But I'll primarily be using this just to film my sort of run and gun everyday lifestyle vlogs where I'm only recording anywhere from 10 seconds to a couple minutes at a time. So I don't really see this being a problem ever. And I'll still definitely be using my A7C II a lot anytime I'm going out specifically to take photos, or maybe a more hybrid workflow like taking photos and videos like I've done a few times with some of the photography vlogs that I've posted on this channel. And I still really do like that setup, especially with my compact prime lens. But for more casual everyday filming here at home, or if I'm out vlogging, traveling, hanging out with friends, or especially if I need to film in lower light conditions, I'll be bringing my ZV-E1. Now, in addition to the camera body itself and the lenses that I use, there are a few key accessories that are essential for my workflow and getting that more cinematic look in my videos. I film all my videos at 24 frames per second with a shutter speed of 1/50th of a second, which is really important for getting that more cinematic look with natural motion blur. But the problem is that when you're in really bright lighting conditions like outside, having your shutter speed set that low means that your video can end up way overexposed, and if you make your shutter speed faster, it starts to look kind of weird and choppy. You can also raise your aperture to something like f/16 or f/20, but sometimes that won't even be enough if it's really bright outside, and you'll also lose some of that cinematic look and the nice depth of field that you get at lower f-stops. So that's where I'll use what's called an ND filter, which is basically like sunglasses for your lens and allows you to quickly control the exposure or brightness of your image just by twisting this little ring on your lens. Not only does this allow me to technically maintain that more cinematic look that I like in my videos, but also practically the experience of vlogging and stuff becomes a lot more frictionless because I can very easily adjust my exposure by twisting this ring, and I don't have to go into the back of the camera, press any of the buttons, or adjust the dials and settings. Now, the ND filter that I've been using with this particular setup is this more premium Nano X Pro series ND2-32 filter from K&F Concept. You've likely heard of K&F Concept before, as they make a lot of great accessories for both video creators and photographers. I remember when I first started getting more seriously into video creation and I had just picked up my new Sony ZV-E10 at the time, I quickly learned that it was essential to have an ND filter on your lens. So I did a quick Amazon search and came across a budget-friendly option with some great reviews that happened to be from K&F Concept. And it ended up being perfect for me as someone who was just beginning his creative journey and was still learning how to properly use a video camera. I was actually watching some of those older videos recently and it was very cringe, but it did make me appreciate how far I've come, and I do feel like my skills have improved quite a bit since then. So I was super excited when they reached out to sponsor a video because I've been genuinely using their products throughout my entire creative journey. Lately, I've been really trying to push the quality of my work to a more professional level, and have found that using professional level tools really does make a difference, especially for filters like these which go in front of your lens. So in addition to the Nano X Pro Series variable ND filter that I've been using with this setup, I've also attached KNF's 1/8 strength black diffusion filter, which helps soften the digital footage and creates a more cinematic, dreamy look that I really like in my videos. KNF Concept offers pretty much everything you can need for filmmaking, travel, or photography, so it's clear that they truly understand the needs of creators like us. Whether you're just getting started or have years of experience, they really have the perfect accessories no matter what level you're at or what your budget is. I'll leave a link to the specific filters and other accessories that I've been using from them in the description. Big thank you to KNF Concept for sponsoring this video. Now, as far as audio, I do have this Sony ECM1 shotgun microphone, which is really nice if I'm out and about and want to get some higher quality audio or ambient sound, as it plugs right into the hot shoe mount. But honestly, most of the time with the ZV-1, I've found that the built-in microphone is more than enough to capture little snippets of dialogue or ambient sound. I do sometimes attach this little dead cat windscreen thing, which slides nicely into that hot shoe mount. But if I do want to get some really high quality audio, maybe for a talking segment like this, I'll pop on that Sony microphone or use these DJI Mic 2s that I'm using right now. All right, so another huge part of this compact cinematic vlogging setup has been the lens. I've tried out a bunch of different lenses, some of which I've mentioned on this channel before, but over time I've realized that for the type of videos that I enjoy creating, there are a few important factors. The first is that the lens needs to be relatively compact, easy to carry around, fit in my bag, not attract a lot of attention, etc. Second, I want to be able to get those wider shots, whether it's handheld talking to the camera or showing more of my environment, or if I'm in tighter spaces like restaurants or cafes. And then third, I want to have the option to get those tighter, more compressed shots of my environment to add to that cinematic feel. So I did a bit of research and ended up with this lens. This is the Sony 16 to 35 millimeter power zoom lens, and so far I think this is exactly what I needed. First of all, this size is fairly compact. It's not like a pancake lens like my 35 millimeter prime lens, but it is definitely a lot lighter and more compact than something like my 24 to 70, and it obviously hits on those key focal lengths that I like, with 16 millimeter at its widest and then 35 millimeter for those tighter cinematic shots. The 16 millimeter length on a full frame camera like the ZV-1 is perfect because even if I turn on active stabilization or even dynamic active stabilization, which has a pretty significant crop, it's still wide enough for vlogging handheld. And then the cool part about this lens that makes it special is that it's a power zoom lens. So it actually zooms electronically, I believe, inside the lens. And so when you zoom to 35, it is an actual optical zoom, but the lens itself doesn't extend at all like my 24 to 70. All you need to do is twist the zoom ring or move this little switch on the side, which is really nice because it just helps keep the entire setup nice and compact while still being pretty versatile. And another cool tip with this is that you can actually enable something called clear image zoom on the ZV-1, which essentially allows you to zoom past the 35 millimeter focal length. And yes, there is a tiny bit of quality loss, but it's honestly not really noticeable at all. It's nothing like a typical digital zoom where the footage gets all grainy and stuff. It's really nice, and this is thanks to Sony's like magical image processing or whatever magic sauce they do with clear image zoom. Now, so far that sounds pretty good, right? But the only downside with this lens, or I guess my initial hesitation with it, was that it's only f4. But as I've gotten a bit better at video and photography, I've learned that chasing super shallow depth of field and that super creamy bokeh with lower, f2, f1.8, f1.4 focal lengths isn't actually always kind of the best. I mean, depending on your needs, it can kind of be a crutch for trying to make images look good when you just need to kind of have better composition or lighting. And so far I found that shooting at f4 is more than enough, and honestly arguably could be better for something like lifestyle videos or vlogging, because at those higher f-stops, f4 or even higher, you'll get more of the background in focus, which for lifestyle videos is perfect since the environment is often a big part of the whole video. Now f4 of course means that you won't be able to get as much light as something like a f2.8 or f1.8 lens, but that is perfect with the ZV-E1 because this thing is such a low light beast that even at f4 you can still get some great looking images at night. I'll put some example footage on screen, but you can just bump up the ISO to 12,800 or even higher and use like some noise reduction in post, and you still get some great looking images, so you're not sacrificing too much when you pair this lens with the ZV-E1. Now Sony does have a 16 to 35 millimeter G Master lens which has f2.8, so you would be able to get in theory the same focal lengths and have that lower f-stop, so you get even better low light performance. And I'm sure it looks great, but that lens is so expensive. It's like more than the entire ZV-E1 itself, and it's a lot bigger and bulkier. So I would definitely opt for this lens over that one. Not only will you save some extra money, but I think this is honestly better suited for the types of videos that I like to make. But yeah, this is the whole setup that I've been rocking with lately for documenting my life and vlogging. We've got the ZV-E1 with the little windscreen here, the 16 to 35 power zoom. I've got the black diffusion filter from K&F Concept, as well as the variable ND filter. And I've been really loving this setup so far. I've filmed a few videos with it that you'll probably see on the channel, and I will be taking this to Japan in a couple weeks, so I'll really be able to push its limits there and hopefully get some really nice footage. So we'll keep you guys updated on my setup, but so far really happy with this. But if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. You are a real one. Definitely click subscribe and like the video, do all that good stuff for the YouTube algorithm. But I would also like to hear from you in the comments. Have you tried the ZV-E1? Have you tried the 16 to 35 power zoom lens? Is there a better compact versatile vlogging setup out there that I should be aware of? What's your go-to camera setup? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll also leave links in the description to all of the gear that I mentioned in this video, including those accessories from K&F Concept. And if you want to see the setup in action, you can click here to watch my latest video, which was likely filmed using this camera. See you in the next one.